Welcome, everybody back to a brand new episode of the Trans Lesson Plan, your go-to podcast for transgender history. As always, I'm your host, Mark. And it is an absolute pleasure to have you all here today. Now, y'all could be mad at me because I was supposed to have this episode out yesterday. And as you could guess, I got tied up for TDOV. Now, mind you, of course, as a community leader and activist and in every other category I'm sure you can possibly think of, I got tied up. So like when I thought I had time, I didn't have time, and that kind of messed everything up. So although this episode will be a day late, please forgive me, of course, as always. But I'm happy to get it out. That's all that matters. My TDOV was great. I was with my brethren, Ricky, yesterday. We had attended the grand opening of the T.S. Madison Starter House here in Atlanta, Georgia. First off, congratulations to T.S. Madison and Dominique Morgan for really creating a center for Black trans women here in the city of Atlanta. If you haven't checked out the Instagram of T.S. Madison Starter House, definitely go check it out. But really the mission of the Starter House is to build safe housing, provide, healthcare, economic opportunities, support for Black trans women. So this investment that T.S. Madison and Dominique Morgan put together to make this happen is 1,000% it's the pinnacle right now of what we need for Black trans liberation. So shout out to them. As we always like to recommend, donate that money, y'all. You can check it out. Like I said, if you go to the Instagram page, check that out and get the link directly there to donate to the cause, because we can't keep a program like this, a movement like this going if we don't have the money to continue to fund it. So like I said, you're investing in Black trans women. So please, donate your dollars. All right. But no, it was a great showing. It was great. I took a lot of pictures, videos. Like I said, they're supporting some very pinnacle people that I'm very close to as well, et cetera. So it was a really great turnout, and I'm just 1,000% proud of what these two were able to accomplish in the mission that they were able to put together, and listening to some of the voices of Black trans women who will be attending the first inaugural Starter House, and like I said, kind of getting in there and doing the thing. So shout out to them. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all TDOV. I was excited to see a lot of familiar faces on the social medias, go viral, and kind of just seeing a lot of the joy from TDOV, which I think is extremely necessary, to be honest, right now in a time of where we have legislation just kind of going at it. They're going at us, claiming that we're the causes of all of the chaos that Republicans are putting us in right now anyway. So, it's good, like I said, to kind of just get a little bit of a smile, a safe haven, to see, like I said, my trans family, well, I know you're not, of course, still pushing, still fighting, and still just living, and I think that's extremely important. As you can guess, for today's episode, we will be talking about really the origin story of TDOV. So we'll be going a lot into that, the significance, the prevalence of today, the perspectives of it. So that's going to be our episode today. So before I get into it, as I always like to do, I like to thank my listeners. So if you're brand new here, welcome to the Trans Lesson Plan podcast. This podcast is not just about history, but serves as a platform for education, providing with valuable insights into the transgender community. Our overall goal here is to inspire understanding, promote inclusivity, and spark conversations about the community, sharing this expert knowledge that you get and some additional resources for further learning. So welcome. Each episode of our podcast is intentionally designed to be concise yet comprehensive. I'm not going to say the duration no more for those who have been here plenty of times. Just know you're going to get some minutes in here. But the biggest thing here is I really want to give our listeners something to start with and learn more on your own time. So it's very, very quick, very broad. And like I said, it just gives you something to do some more research on and learn more about it on your own time. So welcome to all of the brand new listeners here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are a returning listener, as I always like to do, I just love to share my thank yous to you, because without you, this podcast would not be what it is today. Because of you, I have the motivation to always come here every week to give y'all an episode to not only, kind of, stroke my little ego of just learning more about the community, but like I said, actually take what I'm learning and put it back out to the community. That's what makes this job fun. And if it wasn't for you, I would not be here today. So thank you all so much for continuing to support. I love you so much. Just like you, my family. And that will never change, I think, until the end of time, really, until I decide to say I'm going to let this podcast go, which I don't think will ever be the case. So you're all good. Alrighty. Sorry, I'm texting an important person back to get some things in order. All right, cool. Here we go. All right, so today's episode, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about, as I mentioned before, TDOV and really the significance around it. As we talk about this particular day, right? Transgender Day of Visibility, and technically International Trans Day of Visibility, but like I said, we just abbreviated to TDOV. This day is not really just solely about a celebration, but really serves as a platform for raising awareness on transgender individuals, the community, and really highlighting, like I said, some of the contributions that we add to society. And what I mean by adding to society, you can share, like I said, your platform if you're doing something that's a little bit more tailored to, a craft or some type of creativity mindset or aspect to your page. But also our contribution to society is just us living, right? Like us just being here, us just showcasing who we are on a platform, being very outspoken about that. So that's also, like I always like to say, it's just our contribution to society as well. So like I said, if you're here for your first time or you're returning, let's unpack the history, let's unpack some of the significance, and like I said, some of the current perspectives of TDOV. So let's get into it. International Transgender Day of Visibility first took place on March 31st, 2009. It was actually initiated by a Michigan-based activist by the name of Rachel Crandall-Crocker. She was the reason for the event. And the reason behind it was really because of the rooted frustration that had lingered really within the LGBTQ plus community here. The day really is the notable day, like I said, which honors transgender individuals. Prior to this was Transgender Day of Remembrance. Now, like I said, this is your very first time here. If like you're a parent or whatever that may be, and you never heard of Transgender Day of Remembrance, it is a somber occasion that is dedicated to the mourning of the lives lost to anti-transgender violence, right? So when we think about Transgender Day of Remembrance, it's not joyous. It's not something that we wake up in the morning and we're sharing posts about the enlightenments. Obviously, we're sharing, the impact of what our brothers or sisters who we lost during that time and sharing their achievements, sharing their joy in the best possible way of that morning. But that day is not really supposed to be about happiness and joy. Like I said, it's more about sadness and community and kind of coming together. So Rachel actually felt a pressing need really to create a day that would not just focus on remembrance, but would instead shine a light on the resilience and achievements of the living transgender individuals we have today. So her grassroots efforts really ignited a spark that grew and still growing really into what we see as a global recognition, right? Where on March 31st of every year, we have awareness, we have joy, we have pride that really spreads across the communities, really fosters visibility and affirms the existence of transgender individuals, which is a very much needed day. I mean, like I said, we have a platform, or like I said, just somebody who just loves to share your story. We do that every single day, right? Like there's not a day that we're not trans, right? And we don't try to share trans joy, and awareness and et cetera. But like I said, just kind of having a particular day where we can all commune together and really just be like, yes, we are here, especially in today's climate, with today's legislation, at least in the United States. But obviously that legislation really spans across multiple countries, really. So I'm not just going to say it's the US, but having the anti-LGBTQ plus agenda kind of going on right now, the anti-trans agenda going on right now. Like I said, with the current legislation here, we need the joy, because it's right now still being a current fight, a constant fight, uh, a fight that is tiring, but as community leaders, as activists, as advocates, as allies who are on the front lines too as well, we're not giving up no matter how tired we are. So that's just something that we need, like I said, just kind of having this day to really just embrace who we are and enjoy the joy. So to really fully appreciate the creation of International Transgender Day of Visibility is essential really to reflect on the dark history, like I said, that kind of precedented it, right? As I mentioned before, Transgender Day of Visibility, or Remembrance, my apologies, was born out of tragedy, right? And this came because of the specific brutal murder of Rita Hester, who was a Black transgender woman in Boston, Massachusetts in 1998. Now, Hester's murder, coupled with the media's failure to respect her identity, provoke outrage and really mobilize activism within the transgender community. Communities organized marches to honor those taken by violence, and this illuminated the harsh realities that transgender individuals face on a daily. Now, as I mentioned before, while the Remembrance Day is filled with an important role, Rachel felt a compelling need, like I said, to really have balance. And we do need to have balance in everything, honestly, that we do, because we have wins, we have losses, we have good days, we have bad days. There's good people, bad people. So, there has to be balance. And unfortunately, like, it sucks to say that, but there is a need for it, right? So her vantage really revealed a dual necessity, right? The acknowledgement of the struggles faced by transgender individuals alongside, the powerful celebration of our resilience and achievement. So as we fast forward to 2025, right? When this year, my apologies, TDOV should be celebrating its 16th year anniversary. And the selection of March 31st was both strategic and actually thoughtful when we think about it, right? So March 31st was chosen to fill the gap between November's Transgender Day of Remembrance and June's Pride Month, right? And on this day, Rachel felt that coordinated really community events, including panels, gatherings, that actually showcase success stories. Now, you may see a lot of this in media. Like I said, you may have attended an event yesterday, or seen in a live event of some sorts. Maybe you attended a panel. Maybe, like I said, you just follow like your most famous trans creator and kind of just checked out and see what they were getting into. So a lot of organizations really support this day with events, with landmarks, with achievements to really highlight our transgender community, to highlight the flag, which the colors obviously is light blue, light pink, and white. So all this really just brings us all together as a family and allows us to really share the accomplishments that we have, rather than, like I said, using Transgender Day of Remembrance to have so much of that mourning that sometimes, like I said, we just have to get out that run of bring us a little bit of some joy into the light. So you may hear sometimes where there will be critiques and challenges, right? And with this day, those critiques and challenges, some came up really earlier in the inaugural day of Transgender Day of Visibility. TDOD, I remember from what I read, is that there are Black activists who really pointed out that mainstream media recognition doesn't always really capture the real experiences of Black trans individuals who are mostly impacted by anti-trans violence. So key activists have noted that more visibility sometimes can put Black trans people at greater risk, which, yes, is true. But then also too, as well, I think with today's climate, with more of the end of the millennial and Gen Zers, and now soon to be Gen Alphas. I think betas are out now too. Oh my God, I'm getting old. So like all of these generations where they're really embracing gender identity and sexual orientation on a lot larger scale, on a much faster pace compared to, Gen Zers. I mean, not Gen Zers, baby boomers, Gen X's, et cetera, et cetera. This is why it's also important to see it as well. Like there is always going to be pros and cons. And although, like I said, mainstream media is a pro, especially in today's climate, the con is that, like I said, we're putting more people at risk. And especially, like I said, with this year, and the next technically 3.5-ish years of presidency under a man who is pushing a view that trans people are the reason why all of the American things are falling apart, why cis people are at risk, et cetera, all the things that don't make no damn sense. And I apologize for cussing, but then that makes sense. They put on the back of us saying it's our fault, right? Which is not. But like I said, especially now, like although there's a higher risk, and although we still do our best as community leaders and activists to ensure that we're putting safeguards in and having safe havens, like I said, like the T.S. Madison Starter House for the Black trans community and for the trans community, period. Like I said, we try to find ways that we can still let you all know about what's going on, that we can also let you all know that we are still here, to let you all know that we are still available for your assistance if you need us, all these different things. So, like I said, although when you look back at it, when it first was initiated and the fears that they had, it makes sense. And obviously, fast forwarding 16 years later, we're back to square one. I understand the importance of some of these challenges, right? And I'm sure, like I said, kind of me explaining all this makes sense for you also as a listener to understand why as well, right? Additionally, we have researchers, and this is kind of something that really intrigued me, is that researchers would note that while visibility helps raise awareness, it can sometimes lead to oversimplified views of the trans identity, right? And this could really result in an incomplete picture of a trans life that doesn't really fully address existing social and racial inequalities. And this really comes from intersectionality, which I talk about a lot in my client calls that I do whenever I'm doing any, I know DE&I is technically going away, but like any DE&I calls, we're talking about really the LGBTQ plus community as a whole. A trans life, everybody's life is different. A trans life is also different as well, just like us as human beings. All of our lives are different. So a lot of times people see at the forefront a white trans life, thinking that that will be their life. And since these are at the forefront, Black trans lives, or like I said, people of color trans lives don't really get the recognition, and they don't get to see the struggles that happen in those other social and racial inequalities and all these different intersectionalities. So although this is true, like I said, we oversimplify the view of a trans life. Like I said, you're just getting one perspective of it rather than getting a plethora of different perspectives in order to find a solution, and in order for us as researchers to be able to say, hey, the data shows this. This is how we should move forward with this data. This is how we can provide multiple different solutions, because there's not going to just be one simplified solution for everyone, right? There has to be multiple different ones that can accommodate to all identities and all intersections of a particular person or group of people, et cetera, et cetera. Dang, I'm preaching to y'all today. All right. And as you think about like more of the contemporary challenges, right? We think about the anti-trans legislation, and despite the celebrations of that, we still face the challenges of current data within state legislatures across the U.S. Let me pull up my handy dandy tracker here, because I want to give y'all real time of April 1st, 2025. The 2025 anti-trans bill tracker. Currently, we have 821 bills in 49 states. 42 of them have passed over the year 2025 so far. 736 of those are active, and 43 have failed so far. So currently on the translegislation.com, you can find all this information on the current bills that's currently being that have passed, that didn't pass. If you want to just learn more about some of these bills, right now in 2025, it says here that Texas has the highest, which unfortunately does not surprise me, of 126 bills there. Like I said, if you want to check out all of this data, it tells you the type of bills that they're tracking. They're labeling them fantastically. So shout out to the individuals who currently run the translegislation.com website. Take a look at that. I'll put this link in the episode description as well, so you all can easily get to it. But like I said, this is just another example, right? And this is, like I said, more of that contemporary challenge that we have here. Like I said, most of these bills are going to target young trans people, right? Limiting their ability to play in sports and receive medical care. And with these laws, they actually directly challenge really the progress that we have made in trans visibility and acceptance. So the historical cast by Transgender Day of Remembrance continues to really loom on a larger scale, especially, like I said, more for the younger generations whose first introduction to trans pride is really through a lens of loss right now. This makes it all more vital that we have events like TDOV to offer really a alternative narrative that is really steeped in affirmation and hope. And I talked about this with Gay Magazine, so that interview will be out at some point. Really discussing more on the attack on trans individuals, trans women mostly, in sports. So let's check that out. So as we continue on, we think about the new generation, right? As more on the younger side and being an educator, me doing my best to have a podcast like this that's open to all, no paywall, no nothing. Being able to teach and have them learn from what I have learned from elder trans people, from my own personal experience, from what I've been reading, and also letting them know that they should continue to celebrate any achievements that's possible is also important. So you hear a lot, like I said, just from like the younger generation and younger voices, if there are some advocates out there, who talks about really their encounter of a joyful expanse of Transgender Day of Visibility. And I think that's very important. This is where they can find inspiration and encouragement to continue on. So with that as I wrap, and like I said, this episode is going to be a little bit different. I probably should have known that at the beginning, but I didn't. But I really want to close with TDOV, although I'll post it later, but just add like this released on Monday, that TDOV serves as a critical platform for both celebration and activism, right? It is essential for us to recognize the multifaceted nature of this observance, not only as a day dedicated to honoring transgender lives, but also as a contentious focal point of social and political disclosure, especially obviously in today's times. So as we reflect on TDOV's past, its present, and what we will now see as the future of this day, I want us all to consider the diversity of experiences within the transgender community and continue to really work collectively towards a society that actually embraces all identities. Now, like I said, I know that there's a lot going on right now, but this world has never existed without trans people. We have always been around, as you can tell by this podcast. But also, too, as well, we have to work as a community to overcome hardship and to fight back together. And that's really what's going to get us out of these next 3.5-ish years of this current presidency. So, like I said, let us rally around, right? Affirming really, like I said, the vibrant experiences and existence of transgender individuals, and advocate really for a world where visibility translates to safety, acceptance, and love for everyone, regardless of their gender identity, of course. So with that, that's how I really want to close out today's episode. Like I said, I want to just thank you all for continuing to support the podcast. Thank you all for listening to today's episode. I will still have an episode released this Sunday. Don't worry about that. But I really just want to say that your life matters. If you are somebody who is trans or questioning and you're listening in, to the parents out there, guardians, thank you for continuing to support somebody who you know who is trans, for telling them that you love them, for telling them that they deserve to be here, because visibility is extremely important. Visibility is what really made me the man I am today. Visibility is what brought me closer to my family. And I really take that as a privilege from my experience and really reflect it into my everyday, because my family given me the space to be trans, to give me the space to be me, and to realize that me being trans doesn't have any negative consequences to who I am today. And them supporting this journey has really brought me to really enjoy days like TDOV, and to really put a lot of emphasis on being able to give back, to support, to acknowledge, to assist, whatever other adjectives I could possibly think of and verbs, to the older generation, the current generation, the younger generation. Right. And I think I really appreciate, like I said, parents and family members, guardians who listen to this podcast, to have that and to bring that to their family member. To the educators, to the researchers, to the teachers, like I said, continue to support them kids, their kids, and young adults if you're more in the higher education. Continue to support these children and young adults. They're living a life where they're trying to figure out who they are. As we all do, we have trial and error. And during our lives, we all change and we adapt to those changes. And as a teacher, educator, whatever you may classify yourself, you bring something to those kids that they don't probably get at home. You bring something to those kids that they don't see, I'm sure. And you bring something to them kids that allows them to know that there is a reason to still show up every day. So please continue to encourage students, like I said, children, young adults that may be a part of your class, a part of the GSAs, and continue to affirm them, continue to educate them, and continue to be the second parent that they need, because that's always important. That's really what I didn't get to do that a lot in college and in high school either. But if I can go back, I absolutely would make sure that is a space that them kids can have, and that they enjoy it, that they have a smile on their face every single day. Because that's also, like I said, extremely important. So thank you all, like I said, no matter what your role is to somebody who is trans, to continue to support, to love, and see them every single day. Now, with that, if you want to follow the podcast, you can follow us on social media at the translessonplan.com, at the translessonplan on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to follow me, the host Mar, you can follow me at mariiiwrld. That is MAR 3 I's WRLD. As I mentioned before, we're going to have an episode drop this Sunday still, so please stay tuned for that. And as I always like to do, please enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe. Like I said, have a happy life. And until next time, I will see you all then. Peace.